Let me take you back to Sunday night, 8:42 p.m. The door creaked open like she didn't want the house to know she was back. I was sitting in the kitchen, not in the living room, not in bed, not with a sad little candle lit for her return like she probably pictured. No, I was in the kitchen, tossing a handful of her favorite herbal tea bags into a black trash bag. She always said peppermint calmed her nerves. Her suitcase thunked softly on the floor. I heard her exhale. One of those dramatic theatrical sighs like she just returned from battle instead of from whatever soul-arching weekend she had claimed it was. "Hey," she said, peeking around the corner like I might have redecorated the house in her absence. I didn't look up. "There's lasagna in the fridge if Bryson didn't already spoil your appetite." She froze. "Yeah," I said his name. That's how I opened. No warm reunion. No, how was the drive? Just his name. Like I was dropping a hammer wrapped in velvet. She didn't even pretend to play dumb. Just stared at me like I had ruined her moment. That was the thing with Lorna. She always thought her pain was bigger than mine. Like my hurt should make room for hers. I stood up, calm, no yelling, just tired. Tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. She opened her mouth to explain or maybe lie, but I beat her to it. "I found the photos, Lorna. From the cabin. The champagne, the bathtub selfie with his arm half in frame." Silence. Not guilt, not regret, just irritation. Like I was being inconvenient. I pointed to the envelope on the table. Inside, a printed copy of our joint account withdrawal, a flash drive with all her texts I pulled from the cloud, and a key to a storage unit she didn't know existed yet. She whispered, "You weren't supposed to." "Look," I finished. "Yeah, that was your first mistake." She took a step forward. I took one back. "I'm not here to fight," I said. "I'm just here to finish packing." Because while she was off exploring herself, I explored something too. What life might look like without her. And it looked quiet, peaceful, free. She went away for 3 nights to feel new again. But when she came back, she found a man who had already moved on. And the only thing she had left was the echo of a door clicking shut behind me. The first thing I did after she left wasn't cry. It wasn't drinking either. No dramatic walk in the rain, no calling friends. I did something dumb. I checked if she took her toothbrush. It was still in the cup, but I noticed she'd packed the travel one, the blue one with the frayed bristles that she only used when she stayed overnight somewhere that wasn't home. That's when it clicked. She didn't plan to come back feeling guilty. She planned to come back smug, like she'd returned from a yoga retreat. A reinvented woman. New hair, new man, same husband. Safe little Claude just waiting. I kept staring at that toothbrush. It mocked me. So I did what I've never done in 12 years of marriage. I opened her laptop. She left it on the coffee table. No password, not because she trusted me, but because she was careless. And in that carelessness, I found everything. She hadn't just met Bryson. She'd been messaging him for 3 months. It started with gym advice, then late-night confessions, then selfies, then plans. She sent him a photo of our bedroom mirror.
She was wearing the robe I bought her last Christmas, telling him how she wished he was the one untying it. I copied the messages, all of them. I didn't cry, I didn't rage. I made folders and I started packing. Not for me, for her. Every drawer I opened, I felt like I was peeling back another lie. That sweater she said she bought on clearance? Gift from Bryson. That necklace I thought she lost? Sitting in a small pouch with a receipt from their weekend getaway, the same dates she told me she was visiting her cousin in Delaware. By midnight, I had filled 2 suitcases, labeled them, and wheeled them out to the garage. I stood there for a long time, just staring at them. They looked so innocent, just bags. But inside, betrayal. Shoved between folded jeans and socks. The next morning, I called a locksmith, and while I waited, I wrote her a letter. Not an angry one, just a list. A bullet-pointed inventory of everything I knew, everything I saw, everything I forgave, and everything I wouldn't. I didn't tell her she was dead to me. I told her she was invisible now. She wanted to explore? Fine. Let her explore what it feels like to knock on a door that no longer opens. I wasn't planning to pick up her call, but when her name flashed on my screen late Sunday afternoon, just hours before she was due back, my thumb betrayed me. I answered, silent. "Hey, babe," she said, but her voice sounded different. Breezy, floaty, like she just stepped out of a spa, not a betrayal. "I think I'm going to drive back a little later than planned. The sunset here is unreal." I stayed quiet. Then came the line that split me open. "You'd love it here, Bri." She stopped. The silence wasn't awkward. It was horrifying. I could almost hear her brain rebooting. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she whispered quickly. I meant Claude. Click. I didn't wait for an explanation. I didn't hang up in rage. I just set the phone down on the kitchen counter, next to the envelope that now had an addition, her wedding ring. I found it in the small porcelain dish near her side of the bed. She hadn't even taken it with her. She had removed her commitment before the weekend even started. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was heartbroken, but because I couldn't stop wondering what would have happened if I hadn't looked, if I hadn't noticed the toothbrush, the drawer, the name on the receipt. How long would I have stayed blind? When the locksmith came in the morning, I handed him a sticky note with a simple instruction: rekey the front, garage, and side doors. He glanced at the suitcases in the hallway and gave me that look, the look that says, "Man, I've seen this before." I nodded. He didn't say another word. After he left, I sat at the dining table and watched the clock. I knew she'd be home soon. I imagined her pulling up the driveway with music playing, probably still wearing his cologne on her neck. Maybe she'd stop at the mirror to fix her lip gloss. Maybe she'd walk in like nothing happened. And maybe, just maybe, she'd find out what it felt like to be on the outside for once. I left the door unlocked for exactly 5 minutes. Then I locked it, not just with a key, with finality. It took her exactly 3 knocks and 1 jiggled handle before she called me. I let it ring. She texted next. "Claude, why is the door locked?"
A minute later, another message. "Is this some kind of joke?" I watched all of this happen from across the street. I was in my car, engine off, windows up, parked at the neighbor's curb like a ghost attending his own funeral. She had no idea I was watching her try to get back into a life she had quietly abandoned. She knocked again, more desperate this time. Then she circled to the side door, then the garage. Nothing opened. I saw her pull out her phone and call someone. She turned her back to the house, and I caught a glimpse of her wiping her eyes. I wanted to feel something. Pity? Rage? Relief? But all I felt was emptiness. Like watching a movie you already knew the ending to, and still hoping the characters made a different choice. 10 minutes passed before she noticed the envelope taped to the inside of the window. She peeled it off slowly, as if even the paper might accuse her. I knew the moment she read the note, her hand flew to her mouth and she sank onto the porch steps like her legs gave out. The note was short. It didn't ask for apologies. It didn't explain my actions. Simply read, "While you were out rediscovering yourself, I discovered the truth. You left looking for freedom. I found mine. This house no longer belongs to who you pretended to be." That was it. She stayed there for another half hour. Once she even laid her palm against the door like she could feel me through it, like she could will the past back to life with a little pressure. But you can't rewind trust. Eventually, she picked up her phone and started typing. I waited. The message came in. "Claude, please, can we just talk? I made a mistake. I didn't think you'd actually leave." I didn't think. That was the problem. She didn't think. She just assumed I'd wait, like always. But this time, the man she came back to, he had already disappeared. The next day, I woke up to silence. No angry banging on the door. No calls. No tears on the porch. Just birds and breeze, and the strangest calm I'd felt in months. I made coffee like usual, but this time I brewed a full pot and didn't leave a cup for her. That used to be our routine. I pour hers first, even before mine, even on mornings when we weren't speaking. I guess I thought rituals could keep us together longer than love could. Around noon, the doorbell rang. It wasn't her. It was her mother. I didn't open right away. I stood behind the door, just listening. I heard her shift her weight, adjust her purse, then knock softly. "Claude, sweetheart, I know you're there." I sighed and cracked the door open. She looked at me like I was a wounded bird she wasn't sure how to approach. "She told me everything," her mother said. Well, almost everything. Enough to know she messed up. I nodded. She didn't mess up. That implies it was an accident. Her mother winced. "I told her from the beginning, don't play games with a good man." That caught me off guard. I stepped outside, let the door close behind me. She continued, "I came here because she's embarrassed, and she should be, but also because I wanted to see if there was any version of this where you two might talk. Not reconcile, not forget, just talk." I stared at the sidewalk. "Did she tell you she called me by his name?" That shut the conversation down. Her mouth opened, then closed. Then she just nodded slowly.
"I didn't come to defend her," she said, after a long pause. "But I will say this. She regrets it more than she knows how to say. I raised her better than this. I believed her. Not Lorna, but her mother. She looked genuinely ashamed, like she felt she'd failed too. Before she left, she handed me a small envelope. 'I didn't read it,' she said, 'but I think you should.' I waited until she drove off. Then I sat on the front step, holding it like it might bite. The envelope wasn't sealed. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a photo, one I hadn't seen before, one she never meant for me to see. It was printed on glossy paper, the kind you get from a hotel concierge's printer. Not a selfie, not even romantic, but it still destroyed something in me. Lorna was standing in front of a cabin, or anniversary cabin, the one we rented 5 years ago when money was tight, but effort wasn't. She had taken him there. Bryson was behind her in the photo, blurred and half-cropped, but his hand was obvious, resting on her lower back. Familiar. Comfortable. Too comfortable. The note was handwritten in her tight, controlled script. It wasn't an apology. Not really. More like a desperate attempt to sound poetic. "Claude, maybe I went looking for something I already had. Maybe I forgot how to be present in the quiet safety you gave me. I don't expect forgiveness, but I do hope you remember me before all this, before I got lost." She signed it with just her first initial, like she wasn't even sure she was allowed to write her full name anymore. I folded the paper and slid it back into the envelope. I didn't tear it up. I didn't scream. But for the first time in days, I felt something I hadn't let myself feel yet. Grief. Not just for the marriage. For the years I spent second-guessing myself. For every time I took the blame because she was having a bad day. For how many birthdays I made special while she scrawled through other men's lives online. For the version of me that thought loyalty meant wading through the storm no matter what. That night, I sat in the living room with all the lights off. I stared at the wall, the empty space where our wedding photo used to hang. I had taken it down that morning, but now the bare hook looked like a scar. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. A new number. I stared at it until it stopped ringing. Then it buzzed again. A voicemail. I waited a full hour before I played it. It wasn't her voice. It was his. And what he said turned my blood to ice. I replayed the voicemail 3 times before I even breathed. Bryson didn't stumble over his words. He didn't sound ashamed. There wasn't a single sorry anywhere in the entire recording. Instead, he said my name like we were old friends. "Claude, look, man, I wasn't going to call, but she's not doing well. She said you locked her out, packed her stuff, and won't speak to her. I know this probably feels like betrayal, but it wasn't what you think." I paused the message there because I already hated where it was going. I hit play again. She told me you guys were drifting, that it was over in everything but paperwork. She said you were more like a roommate than a husband. I'm not saying she was right, but I just want you to know I didn't steal her. You gave her away. My hand was shaking. Not from rage, from the sheer audacity. I sat there in the dark, listening to a stranger lecture me on how I was to blame for his affair with my wife. Like I had left the door open and he just happened to walk in. Like I invited him. He ended the message with, "I'll stay away if that's what you want. But you should know, she still loves you. She just got lost. We both did." I deleted it immediately. Then I turned off my phone. Not because I couldn't handle it, but because I didn't want to waste another minute of my life giving power to someone who wore my wife's betrayal like it was a shared experience. But what he said stuck. You gave her away. That line wormed into my head and sat there like a bad tooth. Was I really that passive? That forgettable?
The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in over a year. I stood in front of a mirror, shirtless, and just looked, not at my body, at myself, at the man who used to have opinions, who used to say no, who used to matter. And that's when it hit me. She didn't just cheat on me, she replaced me with someone who acted like a man, while I spent years trying not to rock the boat. So maybe it was time I stopped being safe and started being honest with her, with him, with myself. Lorna came back 2 days later, not to fight, not to beg, just to talk. She stood on the porch with the same duffel bag, like this was all just a bad weekend trip, and she could unpack her way back into our life. I watched her through the blinds for a second before stepping outside. She looked at me like I was a stranger. And maybe I was. Maybe she'd never seen this version of me, the one who didn't fold under guilt or wait for permission to be angry. The one who didn't ask her why she did it. I already knew why. What she didn't know was that I no longer cared. "I don't want your things," I told her. "You can take them. You can take the memories, the regrets, the what-ifs. I'm not carrying them anymore." She opened her mouth to explain something. Maybe everything. But I held up a hand. "No more rewinding," I said quietly. "You left to explore something. So did I. And I found peace." She didn't cry. I thought she might. But she just nodded, like she finally understood I was serious. Later that week, I moved out, left the house to her. It didn't feel like home anyway. I rented a small place across town with peeling paint and bad lighting. But I swear to you, every time I unlock that door, I feel like I finally walked into my life. I started going to the gym again, not for revenge, for strength. I started sleeping through the night. No ghost beside me, no text message anxiety, no fake smiles over burnt toast. I even bought a second-hand bike and started riding it on weekends. The silence now isn't painful. It's peaceful. And a week ago, I met someone. Not romantically, not yet. But she laughed at my bad coffee joke in line at the bookstore, and for the first time in a long time, I laughed back. So, no, this story didn't end the way I thought it would. It ended better. She thought I'd wait, but I moved on. Thanks for listening to my story. You're watching Reddit Confessions, where the truth always finds a voice. Comment below. What's one small moment in history that changed the course of everything? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and never lose yourself waiting for someone who forgot who you are.